Let your death be the final word in the story of rebellion.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donald Binks, and today we're going to be matching up the Witness versus the entirety of the Galactic Empire before the return of the Jedi. The Witness, in its pursuit of the Traveler, is going to come across a Star Wars galaxy and will seek to finalize them as it did with the alien civilization known as the Noasis. Okay, so first let's summarize the origins of the Witness, and we're going to briefly summarize the Galactic Empire, and there will be timestamps in place for the people who want to skip the summaries. Anyways, let's start the Witness. So, according to the creature known as Asha, the Witness's origins lie within an ancient humanoid species that lived billions of years ago on a desolate world. This species discovered the Traveler on their homeworld, half buried in the ground, which activated and began to transform their planet into a paradise. This species worshipped the Traveler as a deity, and they called it the Gardener. With the aid of the Traveler, they developed a massive spacefaring civilization, and in this process, they learned to harness the Traveler's gifts, even using them to create entire worlds. Although the Traveler's gifts brought about a golden age for the civilization, it never communicated with its patrons or offered them any hint of guidance. As a result, the society began to crave meaning and sought to find something that would bring order and purpose to an otherwise open-ended existence. In their studies of the Traveler, they also came to view the light as a fundamentally capricious and chaotic force, equally capable of bringing life or death with no ultimate justification for either. They also noted that two other races had been blessed by the Traveler, but had used its gifts for nefarious purposes, which were the Swarm, who erroneously used their gifts to destroy themselves, and the Sovereign, who used their gifts for subjugation. Faced with a lack of purpose and finding none in the Traveler and its light, the civilization came to desire a quote-unquote winnower, or something that would be capable of carving meaning and purpose out of the chaos of existence. They began to conceptualize the idea of the final shape toward which they would strive, which would encompass the perfection of their society and the universe into an ideal end state. Over time, the civilization's governing body, the consensus, was plagued by tensions between different ideological parties struggling with their own interpretations of the final shape. The main parties were the solipsicists, who maintained that the self is the only existing final shape in this reality and that of all other realities. The nihilists, or another group, were labeled as self-flagellating pessimists that believed the final shape would be brought about by their own destruction, and the penitent, the most radical group, which sought to rid the universe of all suffering by any means necessary, and who believed that any who did not act to do so were complicit in its perpetual cycle. At some point, the species discovered that the Traveler had a counterpart entity located in a distant star system. They named this entity the Veil, and through studying it, they understood it was the source of a new power, one linked to the mind and consciousness rather than the physical world, the darkness. In studying the darkness, they discovered that the power it granted gave them the means to guide the universe into a perfected, eternal form, a final shape that would last to the end of time and beyond. In this, they found the purpose they had sought for so long. In order to achieve this goal, the civilization determined that they needed to bring the Traveler and the Veil into close proximity, strengthening their connection, and in doing so, granting them the ability to alter reality itself. And so, they brought it back to their homeworld so that they could form a link between it and the Traveler. However, the Traveler was apparently unwilling to allow this outcome, and responded by leaving the planet and fleeing into the distant reaches of space. Unwilling to abandon their quest, The consensus, now dominated by the penitent faction, having eliminated the Salafist and the Nihilist, voted to use the veil and its darkness to bind their whole species' collective consciousness together, resulting in the creation of an unfathomably powerful paracausal entity, the Witness. According to a vision imparted by Asha to the Guardian, this process involved what resembled a ritualistic mass sacrifice, in which the participants dismembered themselves and piled their bodies and body parts on an altar. Having become one with the darkness and commanding a paracausal armada of pyramidal ships, the Witness left its world behind and began a crusade to locate the traveler and link it with the veil, and in doing so, bringing about the final shape. Now, the Galactic Empire really needs no introduction. It controls almost the entirety of the Star Wars galaxy with an iron fist. Now, in this scenario, the Galactic Empire is going to be at the start of the Return of the Jedi. And despite the loss of the first Death Star, the Empire still was really, really big. At its peak, the Imperial Navy fielded millions of warships, including an estimated 25,000 Star Destroyers, fulfilling the Emperor's will throughout the galaxy. The Empire's central warship cadre is well structured and uniformed, but the Imperial Navy suffers against strike craft largely due to inadequacies of its own starfighters and point defense systems. Now, the Empire focuses on size, firepower, and the terror, which comes at the expense of a well-balanced fleet. The Imperial Army is the main ground force of the Galactic Empire, and it operates massive ground combat vehicles and maintains garrisons across the galaxy. It also cooperates with other branches of the Empire in a variety of operations. The Imperial Army consists of a considerable number of legions, enough to project power throughout the galaxy. Some of the legions are stationed on the capital planet Coruscant as part of the Emperor's personal security, while others are scattered in the Imperial Navy and planetary garrisons across the galaxy. Now, Grand Moff Tarkin explained the Empire's military doctrine of peacekeeping, internal security, and counterinsurgency, describing it as state terrorism, which was a philosophy as through rule of fear of force rather than force itself. Now, as we see, the Galactic Empire has millions of vessels, 25,000 Star Destroyers in the Navy, and a huge number of stormtroopers, not even counting the Army, and the largest military force in the galaxy. The Imperial military included a lot of super weapons too, most notably both the Death Stars, the Galaxy Gun, the Eclipse Super Star Destroyer, 50 Super Star Destroyers, the Sun Crusher, and I think that's all of them. But the Army's largest element was the Sector's Army, which was numbering around 1.5 million fighting men per sector. And the galaxy had around 1,024 sectors. So if you multiply 1.5 million by 1,024, the Army amounts to about 1,536,000,000 combat troops in the galaxy. Then we have the logistics, such as the medical services, the technicians, the engineers, the droid repair, comm scan, and whatever else you might dream up. If we're being generous and say that for every trooper there are about 3 support personnel, we get about 4.6 billion support staff. Then we have the administrative personnel handling payrolls, data banks, pensions, service records, shipping info, inventory, and all that stuff. So if we do the same number again, as while the Empire loved bureaucracy, I want to do a low estimate. So again, 4.6 billion administrative personnel. So without counting the stormtroopers, the comp force, the special forces, the spec ops, the auxiliaries, the experimental units, the special contingents, the military police, and whatever else Palpatine dreamt up, we get the following number for the Imperial Army, which was around 10,752,000,000 soldiers, support, and admin. And I believe I lowballed the number of the support and administrative personnel. Then we have the comp force units attached to the Army that were about 1 out of 5 of every Army unit. So if we add them, we get another 307,000 troops. Again, this doesn't even cover the Navy troops. Right, so For anyone who has not seen Star Wars, the Galactic Empire is a galaxy-spanning empire headed by two Sith Lords known as Darth Sidious and Darth Vader, respectively, who have utter control over the galaxy. They are extremely powerful, a very industrial force, but the only really two people with space magic are the Inquisitors, who are dead by the point of the scenario, and the two Sith Lords. So, with the introduction out of the way, let's dive into a scenario where the Witness encounters the Star Wars galaxy during its pursuit of the Traveler. So the Witness hates the Traveler and the Light, which is paracausal in nature, much like the Force. Whenever the Witness meets a civilization that received gifts from the Traveler, the Witness becomes pretty petty and extends this civilization's suffering before finalizing them. We're not really sure what they do with them. At least I'm not sure. He either kills them or finalizes them. I guess that's the same thing. So we see evidence of this because of a civilization known as the Noasis, who never came into contact with the Traveler. Their destruction was described as swift and surgical, much unlike how the Witness handles the invasion of the Sol system in Destiny 2. The Witness goes as far as to comfort survivors before killing them. When the Witness arrives in the Star Wars galaxy during Return of the Jedi Order would have been destroyed, and there only would have been two Sith left to utilize paracausal powers, much like Destiny's. For this reason, the Witness would spare no time to extend the suffering of the denizens of the Star Wars galaxy. He would be quickly destroying the outer reaches of territory. The Imperial Armada, despite their vast military might, would stand no chance against the Black Fleet. Were an Imperial Star Destroyer to fire upon a pyramid ship, the projectiles would have no effect. So you see, Rasputin, which was a war-mind AI created by humanity, fired upon the pyramid ships during the collapse to no avail. There was no damage. Asher Mir, who was a Guardian scientist during Destiny 2, tested this himself after firing various projectiles at the pyramid ships. You see, any energy projected to the Black Fleet ships is transported to a surrounding pocket dimension where the ordnance fizzles out harmlessly, effectively making the Black Fleet invincible. Any traditional weapon, short of the Force, would be useless against the Black Fleet, rendering large amounts of the Imperial Army and Navy useless against the Witness and his unstoppable armada. With gravitational weaponry and an effective army of servants and warrior soldiers, the Witness would use the pyramid's gravitational weaponry and military to decimate the Imperials. Not only this, but the Witness has gone as far as to steal entire planets, demonstrating the Witness's power. With the Black Fleet annihilating the Imperial Navy, the Empire would be in full panic mode against this invader. Super weapons such as the Death Star II, the Eclipse Super Star Destroyer, and the Sun Crusher would be deployed towards the core worlds to intercept the Black Fleet. Luckily for the Empire, the Black Fleet took 1,007 days to reach the Sol system in the Milky Way galaxy from the outer edge of the galaxy. So that gives the Empire around 3 years to make preparations for the Witness's crusade to arrive to the core worlds. With the external threat of utter annihilation via the Witness, the rebellion would lose traction to focus on the larger threat. While Emperor Palpatine would not change his stance on the rebellion, the rebels might take a step back and silently fight against the Witness. Luke Skywalker would have time to train and prepare for the confrontation against this extragalactic threat. Palpatine and Vader would stand no chance against the Witness alone, and would largely play roles in the background until an inevitable confrontation. It is likely that some of the Witness's servants, such as Rolk or Nezarek, may come in contact with Lord Vader or Darth Sidious. It is hard to say who would win, but for the sake of this being an interesting scenario, I'm going to say Darth Vader and Darth Sidious kill all the Witness's disciples. Luke was said to have been able to become as powerful as the prime Anakin Skywalker, as quoted by George Lucas in a Rolling Stones interview. Quote unquote, "Anakin wasn't what he was supposed to become, but the sun could become that." End quote. Now, you gotta remember, Anakin effectively subdued 2 gods during the Mortis arc of Star Wars, leading me to believe that Prime Anakin could take the Witness head-on. But Anakin is no more by this point in time, leaving Luke as the only hope to reach that point. See, years would pass and Luke and eventually Leia would train. Master Yoda would pass away. Vader and Palpatine would delve deeper into the dark side, seeking power to stop the Witness before his eventual arrival to the core worlds. Effectively, the rest of the galaxy would be buying them time. The Imperial army would be quickly ground into dust. Palpatine would finish Project Necromancer to achieve immortality. With system after system falling to the Witness, the Black Fleet would first come into contact with the Death Star II and a massive fleet of Star Destroyers above Coruscant. With a bright green flash, the station would fire upon a pyramid vessel. As the energy plumes cleared in space, the pyramid would sit unscathed. Gravitational waves would shoot out from the base of the Black Fleet, ripping the Star Destroyers apart and cracking the Death Star from within. Like a star collapsing upon itself, the Death Star would crumble. No weapon made by man stands any chance against the Black Fleet or the Witness's forces. With the destruction of the Death Star and the debris of capital ships falling into orbit of Coruscant, a force storm would tear open above the sky, ripping into the Black Fleet. The force, being paracausal in nature, would overpower the Black Fleet's defenses, ripping apart the pyramid ships like paper. Darth Sidious, after years of practice in the dark arts, had mastered a technique finally useful against the Witness. Force storms required mastery over the dark side of the Force and could be sent from a distance. Enraged by the use of paracausal powers, the Witness would seek now to annihilate these Force users, who were an abomination to him. Darth Sidious, now being immortal, thanks to being able to transfer his essence to clone bodies, much like in the Dark Empire comics, in fact the exact same thing, that's what I'm drawing upon, would be able to destroy the pyramid vessels from afar, which traveled relatively slowly. Despite the immense powers of Force storms, though, the Witness was still a god, and was unharmed by these grand displays. In an attempt upon the Witness's life, Darth Sidious would approach the god. In a blinding light, Darth Sidious would shoot out a burst of Force lightning to no avail. With the swipe of his hand, the Witness would cut Darth Sidious into ribbons. Darth Sidious expected to learn from this fight and to escape with his life. He expected to transfer his essence into a clone after his death. Darth Sidious's soul, instead, was contained by the Witness, who had mastery over this universe and the pocket dimensions abroad. With otherworldly power, Darth Sidious's soul was vanquished. Imperial scientists sat shocked as Sheev Palpatine's cloned bodies scattered across the unconquered galaxy sat immobile. The Emperor's soul was not coming back. The Emperor was dead. Instead of celebration, the galaxy would panic. If Darth Sidious stood no chance against this god, who would? The Empire would crumble. Billions would attempt to flee the galaxy. More than trillions, I'd say. Fleets of Star Destroyers would be sent adrift with crew in stasis in hopes of survival. Millions of ships would go into the unknown regions and outside of the galaxy to escape the Witness. In all the chaos, Darth Vader would seek out his son in hopes of joining him to destroy this threat. An alliance would be made between the Loyalists under Darth Vader's command and the Rebel Alliance under Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. The Witness was now well known across the galaxy as an untouchable god. The Black Fleet would darken the skies of 1,000 follow worlds, but all hope was not lost. You see, an almost similar situation has happened before in Legends. Abeloth. So a bit of background on Abeloth. Abeloth was originally a human mortal. Oh, I should mention that he was also from Star Wars Legends. Well, her. Abeloth was originally a human mortal who accidentally found herself in a dimension where she met the father, the son, and the daughter. a trio of immensely powerful Force wielders who represented the Force, the dark side, and the light side, respectively. They obviously transcended any Jedi or Sith, simply because they are personifications of the Force itself. The son was constantly at war with the daughter, representing the never-ending struggle between the dark and the light, until Abeloth was somehow able to reconcile the two. She became the mother and maintained peace between her children until she began to age and realized that she would soon be separated from her family. In desperation, she drank from the font of power and bathed in the pool of knowledge, and morphed into a horrendous, monstrous entity that wielded power surpassing even that of the son and daughter. She overpowered both of them, and was apparently going to kill them until the father intervened and locked her away. Abeloth became a demigod. Her powers were just on another level, and Jedi Grandmaster Luke Skywalker in his most powerful form tried to confront Abeloth one-on-one and failed miserably. It was only when the Dark Lord of the Sith at the time, Darth Krayt, arrived and the two of them joined forces to take Abeloth that they were able to subdue and finally defeat her in the duel at the Lake of Apparinitos. See, side note, Palpatine or Darth Sidious, as powerful as he is, would still have no chance of defeating Abeloth, and I believe Abeloth is pretty close power-wise to the Witness, so you see where I'm coming from. When the father discovered her crime, Abeloth's, he departed the planet and with his children, which left Abeloth stranded. The son and daughter enlisted the help of the Killiks to create a massive technological artifacts, such as the Centerpoint Station and the Sinkhole Station, to imprison Abeloth in the Maw, a cluster of black holes. Each time Abeloth escaped, she was stopped by the joint efforts of the son and daughter, who were only ever brought together by their resentment of Abeloth's chaos, destroying the civilizations that were cultivated. Forced to contain Abeloth in order to protect the galaxy, the brother and sister emerged from hiding and formed a pact with each other before calling upon the Killiks of Alderaan, a core world planet. Appearing as architects of their species, the Force wielders extended their power to the Killiks and tasked them, among that of the Thurut, to build wonders such as Steel Curtain, the Chasm of Forever, and the Okwalawag, I don't know how to pronounce that, the World Polar, also named Centerpoint Station. It was a powerful tractor beam that first assembled the core worlds, the Corellian system, around 100,000 before the Battle of Yavin. It exiled Abeloth from the wider galaxy by the precise arrangement of supermassive celestial bodies that included dozens of black holes around her, which became known as the Maw in the Outer Rim territories of the Kessel Sector. Her planet was perfectly situated between a pair of black holes blockaded by Sinkhole Station, a space station similar to Centerpoint that kept Abeloth's planet hidden. Centerpoint Station would be key in containing the Witness, or the Last Hope at least. Upon arriving to Corellia, the Black Fleet would once again meet another superweapon. In a desperate attempt at containment, the station would create a new prison, a second Maw, or a massive cluster of black holes to imprison the vessels and the Witness. While this could work, it is purely speculative, I believe Centerpoint Station may be able to contain the Black Fleet, but not the Witness. Only the Force, or some force of paracausality, will defeat the Witness. With the Black Fleet contained, the Alliance took a sigh of relief, until, to their shock, a smoky figure phased out of the event horizon of a black hole, unscathed. It was the Witness. Finality would be achieved. Nothing could stop this god. The Witness spoke in horrifying calmness.
The universe makes us all victims and perpetrator. Life's infinite cruelty. You, more than any, suffer both fates. Be free.
Lower upon the surface of Corellia, outside of the one of many vacant cities evacuated, in a foggy marshland, the two last relevant Force users sat, Lord Vader and Master Skywalker. Father and son united to face this. The Witness descended from the sky with a twisted aurora behind him. Dark sounds, almost like trumpets, sounded from the sky, signaling this almost biblical event. In a climactic duel of fates, a red and green lightsaber would ignite, only to be quickly sliced by the witness's flick of his fingers. The witness was toying with them, torturing them. He wanted them to feel hopelessness before they died. Lord Vader reached out his hand and attempted to force choke the witness to no effect. With a gravitational wave, Lord Vader was shot back onto his knees. Luke would reach out for his father before a projectile of mist was shot out towards him. With tremendous acrobatic ability, Luke backflipped onto a nearby hill, narrowly avoiding the shot. Taunting them, the witness almost cruelly comforted Lord Vader and his son of their impending demise. He blamed the gardener for the pain and suffering that they had went through, but he would be there for their release. Lord Vader would get back up to his feet and toss multiple projectiles at the god before reaching out to the shipyards in orbit above. With tremendous power, the shipyards hurtled towards the surface. These mile-long space stations crashed, and with a force shield, both Luke and Vader spared no time to recover from the aftermath and approached the unfazed witness. Having enough of the charade, the witness sent multiple gravitational waves towards the pair. Lord Vader was struck, his internal organs shattered by the immense power of the gravity waves. With his helmet shattered, Lord Vader looked to his son. With rage in his eyes, Luke fell to the dark side. Orange tainted his iris. Within his belt was the dagger of Mortis, an artifact recovered by the Alliance's last-ditch effort to kill the witness. With tremendous speed, Luke sprinted towards the entity, seeking to stab the witness in the heart and avenge his father. With mere feet away from the god who destroyed so many lives, Luke's right hand outstretched with dagger in hand clenched in rage, stabbed towards the witness. There was silence for a couple seconds, which felt like an eternity to Luke. Luke looked down to the blade. A black hand gripped his wrist. The witness was unfazed. Luke, filled with anger, hatred, and fear, succumbed to the dark side, but was executed by the witness within a ghastly cloud of smoke. Lord Vader sat immobilized, staring at the outcome shocked. The witness had won. With a brief look at Lord Vader, the witness turned about and carried forth, dropping the lifeless body of Skywalker to the ground. And so it was that the witness marched towards the Milky Way galaxy to achieve the final shape. The galaxies and civilizations before would be forgotten, and the galaxy far, far away would be stamped out. Thank you guys so much for watching. The ending was a bit depressing, but it's how I think the Witness versus the Empire situation would turn out. Only the Force could stand a chance against the Witness, but I'm sure some MacGuffin in the final shape will also destroy him. Now, as for how the Witness could have been killed, it is possible the Dagger of Mortis may have been able to kill the Witness, but I'm unsure. Really, it might only kill the father, Abeloth, and the siblings. Probably not against the Witness. That being said, I do think maybe a fully realized Anakin Skywalker could kill the Witness, or a more mature Luke. Years down the line, Luke was not ready by the Return of the Jedi to fight anyone of the Witness's power, or Lord Vader, or Palpatine. None of them could have defeated them. Even together, I don't think they could have beaten the Witness. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I think I'm going to make another video at some point of the Covenant versus the Empire, but I'm going to stop rambling. This is St. Donald Binks, signing out.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.